So today we've gathered here because we have a common interest in applicable lists and AI and a program as well. Because this webinar is a kickoff gathering for all you who'd like to take this program that I will introduce a little bit more during today's session, which I think will help you a lot to sort things out with this giant hairball of regulations, guidance, and standards, and notified body position paper, and God knows what that you need to have in a very orderly, up-to-date, justified, applicable list. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to talk about today. So let's get started. All right, from applicable lists to living compliance. That's the theme. I have a little bit of a cold, so if you hear that I might need to take a quick break to drink some water or blow my nose, maybe, don't worry, I'll be back. So let's get started. Let's take a look at the blackboard and what the teacher has to tell us about this. So this is a hard fact. At every, well, not only the RAQA team, every company is obliged under MDR or the IVDR Act, or Article 10.9, FDA QMSR, and ISO 13485, paragraph 413, to maintain a justified, version controlled, and up-to-date list of applicable regulations and standards. We call it LARS, which is a very common, well, maybe not very common, but it is a name, a male name in Sweden. It's the most common name for a Swedish farmer, people you can trust. Okay, so this includes the regulations, the standards, the GSPRs, which is part of the regulations, especially the MDR and IVDR, and the relevant guidances applied by auditor in practice. Okay, so this is what you have to do if you're planning to have your legacy or new device under MDR or IVDR or FDA QMSR or ISO 13485. And that's the reason why I say it's great that we have a global audience today here, because this is something that concerns all of us, more or less, because there are similar, very, very similar sections in regulations from India, China, Japan, Australia. So I'd say this is more or less a global thing. And this is not option of compliance, right? If you don't have your arms around this giant hairball, well, then origio of everything is wrong. And if you don't have this in place, you will get a really hard time of reaching a situation where you can reach compliance that you can handle really, and that you can feel confident about. And that will make your operations run smoothly, and not only the RAQA operations, but everything that spills over to other departments that you within RAQA have to start and have to manage. All right. I hope you got what I meant with that. And yes, auditors do require to see applicable guidances, especially here in the within the European Union, or I'd say Europe, because it also includes all the EEA countries and all the candidate countries. They require to see that. It's not a legal document, a guidance, but they still require to have it here. And if it's not in your list, well, you get homework. And I assume it's kind of similar or I assume it is the similar situation, even though there are not really notified bodies in the US in that sense, but it is a similar thing. I'm just gonna see, just have to admit everyone in here. Okay, I should have made you host, Jonas, so you can let people in. All right. So that's what we have on the blackboard, the thing that we have to do. So what is this? What is this requirement? And I just wanted to settle the scene. You might think, what is he talking about? We were supposed to talk about AI and cool stuff. Well, hang on. We need to get the purpose and the reason of why we should even talk about AI and why we should even talk about designing and handling various kinds of lists, right? Probably you know this, but it's worth to take one more time. Well, what is this? Well, you need to maintain a list of applicable requirements. And when I say list of applicable requirements, I mean the list of applicable regulations, standards, guidances, and notified body position papers. Those are not required, but you will get a little golden star when you get an audit. And there are two dimensions of this. You do this for the purpose of an audit, right? But that's kind of whack-a-mole approach. We'll get to that, where you want to make sure you look nice, but you need it for an operational purpose as well. These are your guiding principles of things that you need to do and make sure that your operations within the company and that your product lives up to. So that's what it is. And it must be justified why each item is included or excluded or not even considered in the best of worlds. So we talk about applicable and non-applicable. And it must be up to date, continuously monitored. So it cannot be in one-off exercise. It cannot. If it is, if you run this, build this list in January and you have an audit in December and you think you're fine, no, you're not. You're very not. So make sure to have this as a continuously monitored, not one-off exercise. And now you can start to realize why I use the word and phrase giant hairball, right? Because it's one thing just to do the first things, to realize what is applicable on our product. And then your product changes the design a little bit. Then you need to update it. And then just that thing is a big thing to realize what is applicable on multiple number of markets as well. Justify it. Why is it and why is it not? You need to have the non-applicable regulations, guidances, and standard listed as well, because that tells the auditor, it's a very defensive approach, but it tells the auditor that you have considered others and you justified it, why it's not included and why it's not applicable. And it's up to date, which means that, one, there might be a new standard or a new regulation or a new guidance or a new notified body position paper that has been issued that you should have considered. It might be applicable, it might not, but you should have considered it. You should have monitored it and you should have analyzed it. And then there are updates and all of the things that is in your applicable list of requirements, both the ones that are applicable, but also the ones that are non-applicable, because those updates might change the justification. Okay, hairball. Funny. So number 4, it must be version control, of course. Every change log, decision, and rationales recorded so that the auditors can see, okay, has this always been an applicable regulation? No, it wasn't, because once it was updated 2 months ago, we decided this should be applicable because, or our product design changed a little, and so forth. Everything has to be logged, version control. So when does it kick in? And feel free, if you have any questions, if I rush things too fast, just raise your hand and let me know. Okay, so I'll just let someone in here. I have to do that every now and then. So when does this kick in? Well, if you're supposed to register your product under MDR or IVDR, it's Article 10.9, Annex II, Section 4. It's mandatory for CE marking of all devices and IVDs, right? FDA QMSR applies for all medtech products marketed in the US. ISO 13485 paragraph 413 applies for all organizations certified to ISO 13485, which is global baseline, and applies the design market entry and throughout the product life cycle. So it's not a one-off thing. It's nothing that you do before you apply for CE marking or any other market entrance. It's not something that you do once your product is on the market. You have to do it continuously. All right. So when is it checked? When do we use this list? When is it needed? When is it required? Audits, of course. That will be the notified bodies when it's for Europe, or FDA inspections for the US. And similar audits for other markets. It's very harmonized. Or not very, rather. More latecomings. Okay, that will be the last one. If you come later than this, then the door is closed. Okay, so technical documentation review before and during CE certification, of course. Submissions, every market entry, renewals or variations, you would need this. And operations, what I said earlier on. Now, without a current list that is not up to date or not correct, compliance turns into whack-a-mole firefighting, really. And just think about it. This would be like trying to play whatever game that you're supposed to be in, but you don't have the entire instruction book with all the rules for the game. Some pages are ripped out. You missed them. You're not gonna win. You're gonna be in problem. It's the same thing, really. So that's what, why, and when. And now you heard me listen a lot. And now I would like you to do one thing. I would like to engage you a little bit so you don't fall asleep. And my question is to you, and be honest with yourself. And it's you're answering this completely incognito. So be honest and just tell me any of these options. So do you use Excel and spreadsheets to manage your applicable requirements today? Or do you use your QMS system? Or do you use a dedicated tool and platform? Or do you use consultants that are distributed in some shape? Or 5, we don't really, or 6 others. Use the chat, answer 1 to 6, do it quickly, and then I will have a look and make a very rough estimate on what the winner is, or top 3. So let's do that for 1 minute. Welcome, Sevi. We're just doing a little bit of a survey. Open up the chat. Reply with 1 to 6 from the alternatives in the slide that you see in front of you to participate this amazing research. Okay, so I think we have a clear winner, which is number 5. Hardly no one does. No, I'm just kidding. The clear winner would be number 1, Excel and spreadsheets. And then the runner-up would be QMS systems. And after that, we have 4 consultants, which is great, which is exactly what I expected. Because then you will recognize, I'm really glad that the winner wasn't number 5. That would have been a big concern. But our research here from Hooden and my research was really based on well, the requirements, of course, but also how most companies are dealing with this today. Okay, just let someone in again. Maybe they were thrown out. I don't want to be rude, so I let them in. That's why I pause every now and then. Yeah, our research, when we look at how companies deal with this today and what they struggle with, what we see most often is that they have some kind of spreadsheet where they try to manage this. And so we know your pains really well. Thank you for participating. When requirements aren't fully captured, what can happen, really? Maybe you've faced some of this on a small scale or a big scale, but it happens. And when it does, it doesn't look good, right? So here are two examples. I just took them from the news. And this is a Swedish company, XVivo. They had an CE approval for hardware, but it was a 12-month delay for solution, and additional scientific options required. And this was because I'll get back to that. And then the other one is Philips Respironics cross-domain issue. So and the first one was a consultation process. Both of them, more or less, I can't say that, yeah, it was because they didn't have a good list, right? They failed. No, it was probably a lot of shit in this going on here. But as you see, the costs for this is brutal. I mean, Philips had billions in costs. And for this Swedish company, the stock price was down 35%, which is millions and millions of Swedish kroners, or millions of dollars even, which is no fun if you're a stock owner, of course, or shareholder. And if we look at the reasons, this shows that the risk of not fully anticipating consultation requirements in advance, which they should have understood from the guidances and the notified body position papers, then they get in problem. No huge problem, because it was just a delay, but that delay cost them a lot, because they have announced more or less that they were supposed to deliver this product, and the stock markets anticipated that they would see that in the revenues, and all of a sudden those revenues vanished, went 12-month north, which is not great, right? And then Philips, well, shows the cost of not capturing cross-domain requirements. So far we mentioned MDR, IVDR, and ISO, and so on. But when you're building up your applicable list of regulation standards and guidances, you must concern and take on also cross-domain requirements. For Europe, that will be Roche, it could be GDPR. It's probably, well, not probably, it is a selection from approximately 60 regulations and about 800 guidances from Europe that could be applicable on your product. And they change. So when I said that, it's probably one more or one less. So those you have to have control of as well. Otherwise, you might end up in this Philips situation. I can pretty much assure you that that person being responsible of that failure is working somewhere else right now, or not working at all, because that was a huge mistake. But of course, there's a bigger story behind all this. But they are somewhat good examples of what can happen when you don't have this, your rule book, your internal rule book in up to date and in good shape. Okay. So why this keeps happening? Because I see it every day, more or less, that companies fail with this, especially missing out on updates or making incorrect interpretations. And it's hard. It's not so that people are sloppy. Of course not. It's just very, very hard. So unjustified applicabilities. So items included, excluded without rationale and not defensible. That's one big reason. Or the trouble of deciding this. Guidance is omitted, so auditors expect them even if it's not low, but missing entries triggers findings. Irritating, costly, causes stress in your organization. So make sure, have them on your list. Static spreadsheets, no version control, updates missed, rational lost, copy paste errors. This is one of the most common things that I see. And, that tiny little mistake can cause a lot of problem that you don't want to experience. And then we have the one-off mindset, that it's treated as a stiff document that you built at some point of time, and not thinking of this as a living compliance process or your compliance matrix that you should revisit at least once per week, at least. Okay? That means that you have to have a smooth process to deal with this. Otherwise, it's a full-time job, more or less, requiring meetings, discussions, and so forth. It doesn't have to be like that any longer. There are ways to address this in a smarter way. So, oh yeah, one more, market copy paste. Oh, that's another one that I added today, actually. So what we also see here happens often is that companies think that, oh, we got our arms around every regulations and guidances from the European Commission, so we can just reuse this for UK or Switzerland or national rules within Europe. Okay, good luck with that. Don't do that. That's not really good. So you need to, if you sell in various countries within the European Union, or within Europe, I should say, you need to be in control of the deviations between locally implemented counterpart legal acts, because they might very well differ towards the European Commission issued regulation, right? Not so much, but enough to cause problems. And now this hairball is really swelling. Oh, we thought it was just fine to, get our arms around European Union or the Commission issued or the federal regulations from the US, and not so much about the states of the United States. I advise you to make sure that you're in control for that as well. And what I said with this giant hairball growing, well, there are layers on things now. We have, for Europe, as I said, about 60 regulations and some 700 guidances, standards, many. And then we have the local variants that you need to be aware of. So we can just think about 60 regulations times 42 countries in Europe. Okay, that's more than my head can deal with right now. And then we have 600 guidances. Those don't vary that much, but they might. Standards, well, there are global and local versions, but as long as you're dealing with the local versions, you have the global ones overlapped. So you should be fine with that. Okay? And please interrupt me if you think that this is this giant hairball, I understand, but not the hairball per se. Okay? The simile, you understand, but not what I'm talking about. Just interrupt and I'll try to explain a little bit better. Okay, so now we talked about what is this crazy thing that you try to bring to life in your spreadsheet. Okay, so sorry for that. That was kind of really bad English. Okay, big apologize. So I apologize for that. It was a bad dad joke, maybe. So, anyways, let's start to think about this. That okay, there must be a better way, smarter way to deal with this. So let's talk about AI for keeping your documentation dynamic and audit ready or audit supported. Audit ready That's a big term, right? AI won't make you like audit safe. No, not at all. But it is a great tool. I heard a good simile the other day when someone said how to think about AI, and I really appreciate it because using AI right is, that person said, it was like, yeah, it's like if you all of a sudden get an Iron Man suit, right? The first time you put it on, and if you have no clue about how to use it, well, it's just going to give you a problem. But when you figure out how to maneuver that Iron Man suit, you become a little bit of a superhero. Um, yeah, a little bit over dramatic maybe, but more or less, that's right. So you get this suit and list up the stuff that you shouldn't do, because don't ever believe that you can use general GPT models to achieve good results. And what do I mean with general GPT models? Well, if you just open up Chat GPT or Gemini or Copilot or what else and think that you can just start a random chat and get good results, no, that would be that would not be the right way to do it. Um, that will be jumping in that suit without making sure that it fits your body, without making sure that you've read the instructions well, and so forth. You just took it for a crash into a mountain. So what should you do? Okay. So this would be ChatGPT General. Like, it's a nutty professor. It knows everything, but it doesn't understand you very well. Okay. But with a ChatGPT custom model, you get Sima. This is the professor from Simpson, and he's kind of nutty as well. But what I'm trying to say here is that if you use a custom GPT that you train with your purposes, that's when you start to leverage AI in a way that can help you. You've read the instructions. You start to be the one that tamed this beast and tell you what to do, not with an open question, but with proper settings. So ChatGPT and similar tools are language models. They are trained on a massive amount of text to predict the next word in a sentence. That's it. That's the only thing it does, really. It's a language model that guesses, but it's very, very good at it. And it has a tremendous amount of training. So it appears to be intelligence, right? So this means that you get a fluent and often convincing answer, but in reality, it's just a logical guess. But that guess is very often correct, and it's getting better and better and better every day. This is how AI works, and this tells us a little bit. This gives us a very important clue about how to use this. So the larger the data set that it's been trained on, the broader the knowledge base, but the risk also grows that the model will miss your context. For example, MDR Annex II or IC 13485, Chapter 413, and interpret your question in a way that doesn't fit your actual need because it's just too broad. So in compliance, context is everything. Sorry for reading out loud, but I think this is exactly what it's all about. And a mistake here can mean findings, costly delays, and even withdrawal certificates. So we need to take this extremely well-trained machine and language model that knows almost everything on earth to narrow it down and say, hey, dude, great that you know all this, but for now, I only want us to talk about this regulation or this guidance or this regulation and these guidances related to it, or these notified body position papers in context to my product, nothing else, right? That's when you start to get good results from AI, okay? So use tools built on validated regulatory sources. That's number one. So AI should only know what it's told to do. So for example, MDR, IVDR, or what else, and not go beyond it. And this is the same principle as a custom GPT. You define the scope and keep it constrained. So either you find a tool such as Houdin, that already has done this narrowing down, gathered all that information, and building up a function upon AI that is only suited to deal with applicable lists. All right, that's one way. And then you train this. You need to train it and limit it. And work only with AI connected to official regulations and standards. It's not enough for the model to know regulations in theory, which the general one would have. It must be able to retrieve and display information from the actual validated sources. Without this, there is no traceability or audit defensibility. Okay, so if you tried out GPT or Gemini or what else, and it might toss you back some links, it did a general search. It did its best guess on where to look. But you know already. So why don't you either use a tool that did the same thing, or when you try GPT, go in custom settings and say, hey, these are the information when you do searches, and these are the documents I want you to read. For the rest of it, zip it, okay? That's how we do it. And that will be search. Then we have two more. Create custom GPTs and train on your own company and product data. This might sound sensitive, but it's not. You're not revealing anything secret, really. So this would be the essential mix of 1 and 2. You train a custom GPT or use a tool on your product documentation and regulation, etc. So you can do this as an experiment and see how AI becomes more relevant for you. And this is actually what this program is all about, that you have the opportunity to start after this session. Well, you can start it whenever you'd like to, but this is what it's all about, right? So once you've done the program, you can continue using Houdin if you like it, but you can actually try to apply this method in other contexts as well, just using whatever AI, chat-based AI that you find best for your purposes, and try to tame that beast just in the way that I described it now. And then you have the last one, but probably the most important thing: always combine AI with RIQ expertise. So AI will never replace you, unless, I think I said this many times, well, AI will replace you if you don't start using AI in a proper way, because someone with great AI knowledge will do your job as well, and then you will do something else. So it can never replace you, really, but the accountability always remains with the human. So AI can save you a huge amount of time and reduce the risk of mistakes by providing structured monitoring and decision support. What do you think is most riskful? Having a Frankenstein monster-sized spreadsheet that is really hard to update, hand over to someone else if you go sick or on vacation or what else, and with broken links and really hard to monitor, or using an AI support? I would say that your spreadsheet wins on technical knockout on being the most riskful type of operations. Sorry to say, but that's the truth. I'm not saying you should burn your spreadsheets immediately. I'm saying that you should build a proper process around it. And I'm saying that you should use proper tools for it as well, because it will make your life so much easier, and it's not even expensive. So that's it. Let's talk about the program. We have 10 more minutes here. And this is all about how you practically could experience and learn all of this in less than 2 hours. I don't promise that you will be the master of applicable lists and master of AI in 2 hours, but it will open up that door for you. Okay? So the program you can access from houdin.com under resources. It's the applicable requirements program. Maybe it's actually called the applicable regulations and standards program. Maybe we changed that name. Doesn't matter. You recognize it. And let's see here, some sort of animation. Yeah, what you will get from this. So you will get AI-assisted training to structure and justify MDR documentation and similar step-by-step guidance across these articles, Annex II and PRRC tasks. You will get hands-on exercise using your own documentation, no templates. Well, there is a template for a document, but you can use it any way you like. But in this entire training, it's no fluff, really. You're asked to work with your own products to save time already at training. And then if you don't like the result, you can just toss that away and start over. But at least you tried. And that, I think, is really important. Trying to learn something with taking a product or a company that you don't really know about, how can you justify if something is applicable or not on that? So don't do that. Make sure that you choose a product and a company that you know by heart, preferably where you're working, or if you're a consultant, the clients. Proven AI prompts and methods to avoid missteps and errors. So you will get a set of those prompts and how to use them. Tools like Houdin and ChatGPT to accelerate traceability and reporting. And all of this you will get. Instant access, 3 focused modules, no scheduling, no webinars from besides this one then. But you can do it in your own pace. But I have to remind you, if you really want to, master this, don't think that you can do these 2 hours in like 1 month. Short time period, focused training, and that you decided that you really want to do this. Without that, don't do it at all. It's just waste of time, honestly. People that think that they can just hop in and do 10 minutes or 15 minutes every here and now, they haven't understood what training is about, or increasing your expertise and knowledge. Focused, spend those 2 hours, preferably within the same week. Use the tools that is recommended. Otherwise, it won't work. Okay. That's all from me. We got 6 minutes for questions and answers. Challenge me. Ask me questions. Whatever you like. Let's talk. You will get the URL to the program. And feel free either to raise your hand or just unmute yourself and ask the question. First question, is it applicable on Asian market? No, I'm sorry. We're not there really yet. When it comes with, well, let me rephrase. I would say you could use on any market, but to manage expectations, when you jump into this program, the 2 markets that you can really work with would be North America, which would be then USA and Canada, and Europe. So that's if about Asia or South America at this time, I would ask you to wait and take on this program later on, because we as Houdin, we're growing globally, and we wanted to start with the most requested markets, which would be Europe and North America, and then we take on other geography as we have time, because it's very time consuming to gather all that information, validate it, and then train GPTs with it. Okay, here comes one more. Great. Is AI really updated on standards and regulation changes? Yes, it is. So what's going on here is that if you take just an AI, a general one that I said you should not use, then you get into trouble. And if you ask someone, hey, there was an update yesterday or today, what does it mean for us? Well, what the AI will do then is that it goes like, okay, I'll do some searches. I didn't find anything, but hey, let's provide an answer upon my best guess. This is what will happen, it says. And you go like, okay, that makes sense. But the AI doesn't have a clue about that update. So that's the no, don't use it. But if you use it properly, you have a pre-trained GPT custom model, and you feed that with the update immediately. And you also feed it with the last current version of that document and the new one. Ask it to read both. and identify the changes, and then build up a new knowledge. Then you have a trained GPT on that update, much more detailed than anyone else. And that's how we do it. So when there is an update, the AI reads it and the documents and provide you with potential implications, same day as it was issued. So it's both a yes and no answer on that one. Okay. And by the way, currently Hooden does not contain standards. It's only regulations as of now. So geographically, we're growing, but more importantly, what will happen very soon is that you will also have the opportunity to build up your lists with both regulation standards and guidances and notified body position papers. Currently, it's only regulations, but 6,000 of them. Okay. Is Hooden only for QA/RA purposes? I guess so, really. I mean, well, let me say it like this: for whomever that needs to be in control of regulation standards and guidances and so on for a product or a company. So it could probably be other departments as well. But it's limited to life sciences product. So whatever you can enter into Hooden to get an applicable list of regulations would be either a medical device, IVD, a drug, or pharmaceutical, or a biotech product. If it's a combination product, you just simply mark up the combination. So medical device, pharmaceutical, or IVD, and what else? So it matches up that and not so recognized that it is a combination product. How do you train the model? Joha asks. Well, that's a secret. I'm sorry. No, it's not. We train the model in a very straightforward fashion. Our philosophy is that it's better to have thousands or many models, but we're not there yet. The way we want to train them future on that, and that we see works the best, is to have, like, instead of one AI for the entire platform on all the regulations, because that becomes too massive and it can start to make interlinkages and make things incorrect. Sometimes it's a good thing to have, but other than so, it's really to punch down the documentations, the documents per se, so it reads that and give it instructions on where their scope is and where it is not. So we can train a model, and if you chat with that model and start to ask, and that model is only about IVDR, and you start to ask questions about some cross-domain guidances that also we can take clinical trials regulation, which actually mentions IVDR, an IVD product, and you start to talk about that regulation, it says, sorry, dude, that's out of my jurisdiction. But it can talk about that guidance, but not start to talk about and delving away to other regulations. So that's another way. So it's both trained in terms of knowledge, but also trained in how to behave and how not to really avoid any what is called AI hallucinations. It is not hallucinations. It is just a language model that makes the statistical best guess. All right. More questions. We're over time, but this is really interesting. And I really hope that you go and start the program and spend those 2 hours. And then if you have any questions, when you're at the program, you can reach out to me or anyone at any time. If you have questions, there is also a LinkedIn group with all the alumni of this program, so we can start to exchange experiences. We're very open and transparent in what we want to achieve and what we do. With that said, thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much for sharing how you work with applicable lists today, and also great questions, really. And have fun with the program now. Go out and smash it. And then we'll touch base again. Take care. Over and out.